2, AJOB. Number 31. We made these credits here on January, February, March 17th, so they've lasted this long on AJOB 27. And today, I am going to talk about Islam. So we're going to call this one Islam 101. And I've accumulated through the last 10 years and a bit what most people would probably not be interested in in this culture, but I've accumulated sort of a tiny wealth of knowledge of different world religions, and not from a passive point of view, but but from an actual interested point of view, not to study to make myself smarter, but to study to actually interact with the people of that faith or whatever. Like, I have a lot of Muslim friends, and some are close to me like family, and I value that relationship. So out of respect, I have taught myself the fundamentals of a faith that I probably otherwise would have only known what your average North American knows, that all Muslims are terrorists. But anyway, it's morning time here, and maybe this would be a good follow-up to the last blog that sort of was about the Torah. Where do you even start when you talk about Islam? I've read the Quran translated meanings into English 3 times now, and along with the Quran, there's something called the tafsir, which you can look up online. Tafsir, tafsir, and it's like the explanations by the imams at the time, or like the equivalent of preachers or spiritual leadership of the time. Like the Talmud is the explanation to the Torah. The tafsir is the explanation to the Quran. So once I read the Quran twice, somebody said to me, "But have you read it with the tafsir?" And that's supposed to be a big like thing. So then I did. Starting back in 2001 for the first time. There's a local mosque here in town. So in 2001, I went there for the first time just to kind of see, like, I knew a few people there, right? So I went there the first time on a Friday during their prayer time, around the lunchtime prayer, to see what was up and what it was about. I sat at the back on the ground. I didn't feel unwelcomed at first. There was a point where I did, but we'll get to that. So I enjoyed it, and I had people kind of invite me back. And I enjoyed studying. Like, I like traveling, and I enjoy different cultures and learning about different cultures. So somebody like me actually enjoys just being in the presence of something different and enjoying it for what it is. So I stayed there, and I took notes at the mosque basically every Friday for a year. And at the end of that year, I would have probably kept going, but somebody, apparently some rogue person, they're not they don't all kind of have a hive mind and work together. But some person came up to me and said he was sort of offended by me taking notes. As is commonplace in charismatic Christian circles, you go to church with a Bible and a notebook or whatever your equivalent of that is, and in the Quran, in Islam rather, they don't really take a Quran to the mosque and don't really take notes, as far as I've seen. It's a short time, it's a break from work and daily life, and then they're to go back to work afterwards. It's not like they get the whole day off, or Friday night to Saturday night like the Shabbat is nowadays. Not to get into the lunar Sabbath issue, but anyway, suffice it to say, so I studied Islam for a while at a mosque, and I talked to the imams, and in the meanwhile, of course, I was using the information superhighway to ferret out anything that I wanted to know, and to ask questions of people that maybe I couldn't ask face to face. But the close Muslim friends that I do have, I could pretty much ask them anything. I mean, the first thing on my mind, I think, to ask, and a lot of people's mind, is, so what's the deal with Muhammad, and, you know, why did he marry like a 6-year-old, a 13-year-old, and etc., etc. And of course, they, just like everything, they have explanations for that. And I never formally converted to Islam, so maybe that'll tell you where I stand. And you know, people think I'm a Muslim sometimes because I hang out with Muslims and I can speak a little bit of Arabic and other languages enough to sort of blend in. But when I've gone to the mosque in the past, as recent as this last Ramadan, I don't pray with the Muslims because I don't know how to. Even if somebody flat out just taught me how to pray with the Muslims, I probably wouldn't. But you know, there's certain actions that I'm not trying to make fun of, but there's just certain actions, and you're taught, if you're raised in a Muslim house, you're taught these things from youth, and sort of converting into it, somebody has to teach you. So unless there's that formal conversion, then that probably won't happen. And you could probably teach yourself online and go blend in, but you know, I guess I haven't been trying that hard. So we'll start with talking about the 5 pillars of Islam. And honestly, I have not prepared for this. I'm trying to do it from memory. And as we learned yesterday, editing the AJOBs doesn't really go over too well. So what I'm going to do is not edit this, and hopefully nobody comes in the next few minutes. The 5 pillars of Islam, I know one is, okay, so prayer 5 times a day, zakat 2%, like the tithe 2% of your income to charity, the pilgrimage to Mecca once in your life, and if you can't do that, in Saudi Arabia, Mecca, and if you can't do that, to go to the Kaaba, then you know, you pay for somebody else to. The professions, which are La ilaha illallah wa Muhammad Rasulullah, which translated from Arabic means there is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is his prophet. And the 5th pillar of Islam is fasting during the month of Ramadan. Did I repeat myself there? See, because I'm recording this, I can't go back and check. So if I repeated myself and said Ramadan twice, then it might be jihad in the loose sense, not the terrorist sense. Okay, now I'm Googling it. Fasting during the month of Ramadan, the creed, the daily prayers, almsgiving, zakat, pilgrimage to Mecca. The Shahada, the Salat, fasting during Ramadan, zakat, pilgrimage to Mecca. Yeah, so I covered that. The Shahada is La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. See, now I have a Wikipedia page in front of me, but I'm going to close that Wikipedia page. The idea was to be real as I can with people who are watching this and tell you that I'm doing this from memory. So there's nothing like, not that it matters, but there's nothing in front of me. I'm just talking to a camera, drinking a tea. Watching myself on the screen to see how dumb I look sometimes, like that. But, so we got the 5 pillars of Islam. Now, the Quran. There's verses in the Quran that sort of indicate that it was given to Muhammad in, parts of it were given in like 30 days, or other parts say it was given to him in 30 years. And of course, if you talk to any Muslim or Imam and ask them, was the Quran given to Muhammad over a 30-day period, of course they'll say you're crazy, because that's insane. The Quran is comprised of 114 surahs, which could sort of be the equivalent of chapters. In the Quran, those surahs are organized from longest to shortest, which, coming from a Western point of view, or like a critical textual criticism type mindset, it's almost like nonsense. I'm not the only person who thinks that. Not that I'm like, oh, it's nonsense. It is what the Quran is. So it starts off with the cow, the heifer, and pretty much every chapter opens up with, in the name of Allah, and then goes on various and sundry things. If somebody, ticked Muhammad off in some specific way, he'd go home or go to the cave or whatever that night and come back and have some revelation from the angel Gabriel from Allah about what to say. The Quran is a collection of poems and that sound apparently way better in Arabic, and sundry things given to one person, given to Muhammad, over, safe to say, a 30-year period. Some people debate whether or not it was added to after he passed away, or if things were changed during his lifetime to have more consistency. But on average, Muslims take a great pride in the sense that it has stayed the same, and they have original copies from 1500 years ago when Muhammad walked the earth. Now, obviously, comparatively speaking, if you want to compare that to the Torah or the canonical Bible, there's not much comparison. The Bible was what's called the Bible, named after Byblos, the city that specialized in the parchment that the original scriptures were penned on before the printing press. And Byblos is a Roman god, so I try not to get too much into calling it Bible when it's a collection of books, is what it is, and we call it what we call it. But there's 66 different books in the Bible that are penned by over 40 different authors over a period of 4,000 years on 3 different continents, or 3 different major countries at least. So comparatively speaking, there is no comparison. So what a Muslim will say, and was an early contention point to me in 2001, was find me a Bible that doesn't have an error in it, and that doesn't have addition from a text from a translator, and then we'll read that. And they would always say, like, the Quran is perfect and it's the original Arabic that it was penned in, and that very well may be the case. I'm sure. I've seen pictures of this one of the original Qurans still in written on leaves and somehow encased in something, and it still remains to this day in Saudi Arabia, in Mecca, I believe. So another major point for some comparative reference is Muhammad lived 1,500 years ago. Like 500 years after the Messiah walked the earth, if that's your particular brand of faith. Muhammad walked the earth. So Muhammad is coming after all these major players that we read about in the scriptures, after the preachers and the book of in the early church. He's coming after all that and saying, okay, well, this is how it really is. Some people's major contention with the Quran itself is all the times that it calls for the death of Jews and Christians. Then you'll have liberal Muslims trying to say that it doesn't say that. But if you read it yourself, which I would recommend, it won't take you that long. Like, it's not that long of a book. Like, they have monthly schedules on how to finish reading the Bible, but the Quran you can probably finish. Yearly schedules on how to finish the Bible, but the Quran you can probably finish like in 2 days, or one full day of reading. So, comparatively speaking, between the Bible itself, the 66 canonical books, thanks to the Council of Nicaea or whatever, Constantine and all them back in the day, thanks to them, there's not much comparison. And for the people who try to compare the Quran to the Bible without getting into the fact that it's 66 different books written over a period of 4,000 years by 40 different authors, I don't know what they're comparing. It's I can't even think of comparisons. It's like comparing a rock and a universe, or a seed and a car. I mean, it's completely different animals, written entirely different, different wording, different language. So now the problem is that Islam as a religion goes back into Genesis times when Abraham was around, and claims that Abraham was actually a Muslim. So they go backwards in time and say, no, as a matter of fact, Abraham was a Muslim. And if you disagree with them, they'll say, well, Muslim just means one who submits, submitted to God. The word Islam means submission. So the Quran, in my experience, is a lengthy rebuttal to what everybody is going to say to you if you contradict the teachings of Islam. So, like, you'll read one part and it'll be like, oh, you believers, say to those who don't believe, say this, say that. Well, if they say this, then you should say that. If you say this, then you should say that. And that's pretty much the entire Quran mixed in some poetry. And I'm not trying to sound judgmental or whatever, or try to be smart, but if you read it for yourself, you'll see that exact same thing. So I'm just saying this is what it is. So as far as the person of Muhammad goes, that's of course a huge issue of debate. Some people say that he was some people say that Islam was created much like the CIA created Al-Qaeda to be a military arm with plausible deniability. Now, I don't know if that's the case, but what is recorded fact is that Muhammad himself was trying to be social with Jewish people and trying to go to a synagogue, but apparently he wasn't welcome for whatever reason. It's admitted that Muhammad was illiterate. A huge part of the Muslim world, unfortunately, is illiterate. And I'm not trying to sound like I'm putting them down. Huge parts of Pakistan, Afghanistan, Saudi Arabia are illiterate. So that's not something that I say in a negative way. It's just that's how it is. Have to excuse me for a moment. Oh.
Hi, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
I just wanted to add in for the orange sugar.
Okay. It's not going to be in for the 1st, which is this Friday, because I sent my paperwork yesterday, so you have a week to basically get it back. If you want to fill it out now, you can, but you can also take it with you. Here's a pen. You can fill out whatever you want to say. If you want, you can take this to the back seat and take your time.
Yeah, okay. When did you guys take this over? When they close next door?
2008.